Thank you. All right, so let's talk about why you're doing a buyer consultation. So for those who have been in real estate for several years, we used to do buyer consultations because buyers had the pick of the homes. And if you weren't careful, you'd show 60, 70, 80 homes and they'd never make a decision, right? And then sometimes waste your time and go off with another agent. Well, late 2020, when all of a sudden the market went zoom, right? Then it was just speed to the house. Can we get to the house the quickest? Put in the offer, make these ridiculous concessions, and just hope to find the house, right? And so as we are headed into 2023 and our market is starting to become more balanced, it's important to go back to becoming that real estate consultant where we are essentially teaching buyers how the market's moving and how the process goes and what we are going to do to help them through that process. Okay, so an hour to an hour and a half on the front end can save you 5-10 hours on the back end. And so while I would show a property without doing a buyer consultation first, it's kind of a dangle the carrot to them, you know, get them excited. I get to meet them face to face. I would not continue showing them property without doing this buyer consultation because it's a disservice to them as well as a disservice to you and your time and the way you want to run your business. 53% of buyers, the number one thing they want from their agent is for them to find them the right house. Yet most agents set a buyer up on a drip and just say, tell me when you want to see something. That's called being a door opener. And I don't know about you, but I didn't get into real estate to be a door opener. I got into real estate to offer value and to be a real estate consultant, right? And really show my professionalism and expertise. And so it wasn't until I decided to get serious with my buyer consultation that the quality of my buyers also changed. Because the agents who were just going to open doors, not qualified people, all of that, those people would flock to them. But I'm only going to get those that are serious because I'm requiring them to put in some time before we really get into the mix of things. Okay, so let's take a look at the makeup of a stellar buyer consultation. Okay, so these are the main parts of the buyer consultation. First, you're going to set the stage and talk financials, get to know them a little bit. Next, you're going to explain the home buying process. Third, you're going to do an in-depth needs analysis. You're going to define expectations, and then you're going to get the loyalty agreement. All right, so let's talk about being prepared for the buyer consultation. I in no way sat there and just read them something because they can read on their own, right? However, I wanted to send them home with collateral so that they could look over it. They could, oh yeah, what did she say about that? And go back to it. And plus there were some additional things that I included in the folder. So here were some things that I included to have in their take-home folder. One, the folder. Okay, I just went, I didn't go get branded anything. There was no embossing. I just went to, I think it was Office Depot and got some plain black folders or white folders, whatever. Keep the cost low. Two, you want a copy of the buyer, of the purchase and sale agreement in that folder. You want a copy of the purchase and sale agreement in that folder. And the reason why is because Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when it's time to make an offer, we want to be swift. And I don't want you to feel unsure about anything. So I want to make sure you have ample time to do your due diligence and read over this legally binding contract and let me know if you have any questions. The last thing you want to do is get a buyer under contract. They get outside of their inspection period and they come to you and say, well, we didn't know that there was an inspection period. You never told us. That's the last thing we want to do. So you want to make sure you provide them with a blank contract in order to be able to refer back and say, now remember, we provided that for you. Third thing I include are 5 business cards, 5 business cards, and I'll tell you why a little bit later on. The next thing I include are the stats on the specific neighborhood they're looking for. And if I don't know that yet, when I get them to the buyer consultation, then I just provide general market stats for Naples. The next thing I'm going to put in there are our required brokerage agreements. Now, those are brokerage specific for buyers. However, here at KW Naples, we have the affiliated buyer disclosure. Okay, that says we are affiliated with Title Alliance and whatnot. Also in the purchase and sale is still the energy disclosure. And then also the Collier County Code disclosure. So I include those things because we're going to get to them and I'm just going to have them sign them right there. And when studies show that when you get people to start filling out forms for you, they are more likely to start filling out the loyalty agreement too, right? Just like when we're sitting in a listing appointment, if you can get them to start. Oh, she sees the first slide only. Okay. Let me try this. Do you see it now?
Hi, yes, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. And then finally, the loyalty agreement. So there are official buyer brokerage agreements. To me, they looked very legally. They looked very complex. They looked very serious. And really, for me, yes, you have to have it documented that you have a relationship, an agency relationship, just like if you get a listing agreement. You wouldn't be out there marketing a seller's home without a listing agreement, right? So why are we out there showing property, writing offers for a buyer? We don't have a buyer unless you have a loyalty agreement. So my loyalty agreement was 12 simple things I do for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. And here's the 4 things that I ask in return. Okay, and we'll go over that in a little bit as well. So those are the things that I included in that folder before we had our conversation. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, so let's talk about converting the lead. All of this discussion about a buyer consultation is a moot point unless we actually set the appointment. Okay, so I provided, I think you had it in the chat. Patricia just shared it in the chat with you. LPMAMA. So if you'll look at that LPMAMA script. Patricia, will you pause recording one moment, please? All right, so we missed LPMAMA there. That's okay. And hey, if they are not ready for an appointment, then you handle that as well. Well, I'm so excited you're thinking about buying a home. It doesn't quite sound like you're ready to start looking at yet, but I do work with my clients from the homework phase until the day we close. So my job at this point is just to stay in touch, make sure you have everything you need until you're completely ready. Is it okay if I check in with you periodically? Right? So, and here's the thing too, if somebody is a total jerk on the phone with you, do you want to work with them for the next 2 to 3 months? Probably not. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back up. I recommend that you practice LPMAMA daily. Daily. Okay. Let me minimize this, pull this up. I can't see it. All right. Patricia, will you pause the recording? All right, moving on. So let's set the stage. So you've set the appointment with LPMAMA. They show up. I always start with a little icebreaker. I'm looking for some sort of sports team, hat or clothing. I'm asking them how the drive was, if the weather's something, what have they been up to today? Just a little bit of chit chat to kind of break the ice in the room. Sometimes people are nervous. I've got water bottles there if they want them, snacks. If they're bringing their kids, which is usually not the greatest idea if they're younger because they lose attention quickly, right? But if they do, I've got coloring books and things for them to draw with or snacks or something to keep them occupied as well. And so when we start off, you want to thank them for coming, and then you also want to let them know again why they're here. So, you know, what we're going to go over today is I'm going to get a really good idea of what you guys want and need, because that's going to save you hours in this process. And that's the benefit of working with me, is that I save my buyers a lot of time. Okay. And then also we're going to go over the steps in the home buying process. When was the last time you bought or sold a home, Katie? Right. And we're going to get into a conversation about that. And then I'm going to say, and then we're going to make a decision on whether or not we work with each other through this. Okay. And so here's a great script. Mine was a little bit different, but this one's fantastic. Before we get started, I would like to share my mission with you. My mission is to help you achieve your goals and exceed your expectations. And again, if that's not your value proposition, insert your value proposition. Mine was all around education. As a previous teacher, I brought that in. So think about what are your qualities and build that into your unique value proposition. By doing this, I hope you would never hesitate to refer me to your friends, family, or coworkers. Therefore, at the end of our meeting today, one of three things will happen. One, you'll understand all the benefits I can provide to you, and you'll choose to hire me, and that would be great. Two, you may not understand all the benefits I can provide to you, and you may choose not to hire me, and to be quite honest, that wouldn't be that great. Or three, I may choose not to represent you in the purchase of your new home. Sound fair? Now, when I would say that, they would pause and they'd go, why wouldn't you work with us? And I'd go, oh, okay, great. Fair question. Let me explain to you. You see, my business is 100% repeat and referral. And you and I are going to get to know a lot about each other today. I'm going to get to know a lot about what you need and what you expect. And since I'm in the market every day, if your needs and expectations are something that are not achievable, I'm not going to get your repeat and referral business. I don't want you hating me at the end. And we're going to leave today as friends. Sound fair? So I let them know that I'm only going to work with them if they're realistic. I let them know that I work on repeat and referral business, and that's going to set the stage for me to ask for referrals down the road. And it's also setting the expectation that we're in relationship forever. I'm not going to turn and burn you. And so that puts us in the power seat of determining who we work with. We do not have to scrape and just clamor for anybody who pays us attention. We get to choose. All right, so then I'm going to tell them something like, oh, now it's for the fun stuff, some disclosures. Okay, and so I'm going to briefly show them those forms that I talked about in the folder, except for the loyalty agreement. I am not showing them the loyalty agreement yet, but I'm showing them that ABA and then sort of energy gauge. Okay, And I'm not having them sign them yet. I'm just showing it to them. All right, so next I'm going to go into the home buying process. Okay, the home buying process. So we're going to start with finances. So Katie, you indicated to me on the phone that you had down payment, but you were going to need to finance the rest. And so what I'd love to do, you mentioned you did not have a preferred lender. What I'd love to do is get mine on the phone. He can take a look, ask some question, or it'll take about 10 minutes and I will step out. Like I would literally get my lender on the phone during the meeting, of course, letting the lender know beforehand that you're going to be calling. And I would put them on the phone with the buyer. When buyers are serious, they do not balk at this stuff because you are guiding them through the process to make it as smooth as possible. Okay. If you don't want to get them on the phone or your preferred lender isn't available, then just say, hey, what's a good day and time? Take a look at your calendar. What's a good day and time I can have them reach out to you next week and make that appointment. Okay. Next, we talk about the research process. How are they going to receive homes from me? So this is where I share my app with them, okay? Or I tell them about sharing an app with them. And I take a note on a notepad. I always brought a notepad, and anything that I promised to give them, I wrote down and circled. Because the last thing I want to do is say, yeah, I'll get that to you, and then I don't. So if I talked about my app, I wrote it down and circled it. Then I let them know about the MLS drip. I didn't call it a drip, I called it a customized home search. However, it comes with a caveat. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, after today, I'm going to have a really detailed view of what you want in this next house. However, when I go into the MLS and I set you up with your customized home search, I have to be really generic. Here's why. Because if you tell me today that you have to have a fenced yard because your dog will run away to Fort Lauderdale, I hear that. And we will only go and look at houses that have a fenced yard. But if the listing agent did not check that little box that said fenced yard, we will miss that house. So I'm going to be very generic. I'm going to only put in your price range, your location, and your square footage. That's it. So as you're looking through, don't think she didn't listen to us. Just delete it, ignore it, and look for the ones that do match it. I learned to put that in my buyer consultation because there was one lady that I met with, and I set her up on a drip like I always did, and she would reply to everyone and go, this, nope, no, no, no. After about the third or fourth day, she said, why did I even meet with you? You didn't even listen to me. And I realized I didn't tell her that I have to be really generic with the drip or else we're not going to see any houses. So from that point on, I included it in the buyer consultation so they understood why what we spoke about didn't match what I was sending them. Right? Communication is key. Then I would talk about Zillow. And I would tell them, hey, Zillow is loaded with other agents that are not me. And if you go clicking around on Zillow, somebody's going to get your number and they're going to blow up your phone. So while I would prefer that you stick with my app or the MLS listings that I send you, if you see something on Zillow, just take a screenshot and send it to me. Again, I save you time. I will reach out on your behalf. Okay. Then I moved into how we would see properties. Remember, we have to train them, even our family, friends, we have to train them. So I discussed FSBOs, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, now that you're in the market to buy, you're going to be so excited to just check out neighborhoods and check out different houses. And you might come across a for sale by owner. I can work those with you. So just take a picture of the sign, give me the address. I call on your behalf. I arrange the showing. Again, I save you time. I teach them about the new construction. Are you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, are you considering new construction? Even if they say no, I still talk about it. I say, well, you know, you might find yourself driving past a new home community and you might just say, oh, let's stop in. Well, here's the thing. Those site agents are sub-agents of the builder. Anything you say and do can and will be used against you. And sometimes if you just walk in there without your agent, you are now unrepresented and they will do both sides. So if you see a community that really stands out to you, call me. I will make an appointment right away with a site agent so that we have the dedicated appointment time. And then I talk about anything you see, Facebook, open houses, okay? Let's say you're driving by and you see the balloons and the sign and you stop in an open house. That's great. The agent in that home is going to try to capture you as their customer. So one of those cards, I provided you with 5 of them in the folder you're taking home again. Just hand them that card and that way they can follow up with me again, saving you time on the phone talking to different people. I will take care of that for you and get the feedback. Okay, so you've got to teach them how to barricade themselves away from a possible situation that even in the best intentions, they now cut you off from being their represented agent. Okay. Next, I'm going to go into market conditions and inventory. So if we spoke on the phone and I determined, hey, you were interested in the Mandarin area, I'm going to pull all the stats for Mandarin. I'm going to pull what's available, what's active, what's pending, what's sold. I'm going to become the local expert on what the market's doing in Mandarin. That's an area in Jacksonville. Okay. And so when they come in, I'm going to speak all to that neighborhood and I'm going to say there are, you know, 275 homes available right now that are in your price range. You know, I'm going to talk about how many are pending, how many are sold, what is the average list to sale ratio in that neighborhood. And then I'm going to dig about, now you said, you indicated you wanted a better neighborhood for your kids. Tell me more about that. Remember, we legally can't say whether a neighborhood is good or bad. I'm just repeating what she said, and then I'm eliciting what does good mean to you? Okay, good to me might mean something totally different. So what does that mean to you? And then I'm going to ask if they've thought about any other communities, any other parts of town. If I'm in the back of my head, if what they're saying is important to them is matching other neighborhoods I know about, I might bring them up. I might pull them up on the screen. I might share it with them and say, have you thought about this neighborhood as well? So this is where the consulting comes in. Obviously, the wider range that they're open to, the more homes we have to offer them. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about the offer process. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when you decide this is the home for you, there's a couple of things I'm going to need in order to construct a really good offer. So the first thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need your full names as they appear on your IDs. I also sometimes took copies of them just so I could have them on file so that the contract matched their name. Okay. I'm going to need to know the down payment amount, the binder amount. So I'm not super familiar yet with Naples area. market, but where I come from, it was a solid binder was 1 to 2% of the purchase price. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the point of a binder is to bind you to this property so that you have some skin in the game in case you decide to just walk away. So let's talk about the ways you can get your binder back. Once it's submitted, it will be fully deposited. Here are the ways you can get it back. Okay, so again, you're talking contractual with them. If you're not super familiar on those ways they can get the binder back, hit up one of Jeff's classes on Mondays. I'm going to talk about the closing date, right? So if they indicated they're in a lease, when does their lease end? If there's an overlap, do they have a place to go? We're gonna problem solve that, or do they need to close before? So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes to structure the perfect scenario. And then, okay, if that doesn't work, what's the next best scenario? So that we're prepared when it comes to writing the offer. And then we're also going to talk about the inspection period. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, more deals fall apart during the construction period than any other time of the contract. Can I tell you why? They're going to say yes. You say, yeah. So, you know, we have X amount of days to do our due diligence and then do any and all inspections. You could inspect for mold, asbestos, ghosts, whatever you want to inspect for. I really recommend a full general inspection, and I recommend a wood destroying organisms inspection. We live in Florida on the surface of the sun where it rains, everything grows stuff. Okay, in that general inspection, we're going to pay someone probably between $500 and $700 to come in and scour the home, floor to ceiling, every nook and cranny, any little thing that's not perfect. We're going to pay someone to come in and tell us everything that's wrong with this house. Now, let me go ahead and tell you, you're never going to get a report back with 0 pages in it. Every report you're going to get back is going to have 40 or more pages. That does not mean that this house is a lemon. It just means we paid somebody to do that. Okay. And it's really important to keep the big things big and the small things small. Big things are roof, foundation, electrical, plumbing, any structural, anything else is kind of just welcome to homeownership. And so most deals fall apart because the buyer gets freaked out. Their agent didn't tell them that they were going to get this massive report. The buyers freak out. They think the house is just completely a lemon. They go and request everything on the report to be fixed, down to the light bulbs and the crack in the siding or whatever it is. And the sellers get offended because they say, well, I didn't buy this house perfect. They're not getting a perfect house. And then they butt heads, nobody moves forward and the deal dies. So I can tell you, if anything comes back on that wood destroying organism report, we're going to get that fixed. Okay. But it's real important that we keep the big things big and the small things small. Sound fair? If you don't teach them that, they will freak out when they get the inspection report back every single time. All right. And then we talk about the contract to close class, or we talk about appraisal. Okay, how that's going to be another out-of-pocket cost. Okay, a lot of people sometimes think that you just have to have the down payment and the closing costs. Well, no, there are some out-of-pocket costs right up front that they could feel like they're hemorrhaging money. And I actually say that in the first couple of weeks, you're going to feel like you're hemorrhaging money. People are going to be coming left and right, lender, inspector, WDO guy, they're all gonna be asking for your credit card. This is all normal. It's all part of the process. And then it's gonna get quieter. Okay, title's doing their research behind the scenes. Your lender is running your documentation through underwriting. They're asking you for additional documentation. Title is looking for clear title on the property. So it's going to seem to be a little bit quieter. And then when we get to closing, that's where you're going to sign what feels like 10,000 pages, and you're going to be a homeowner. And from there, you and I continue our relationship. I have a whole database of vendors, of anything that you need. I know somebody in every industry. Okay, so that's just teaching them the home buying process. If you learned anything just now, imagine how much your buyers learn when you teach them the home buying process. They need to know these things, and you're going to give them a lot of information, and one time's not enough. So as you're going through these things in real life, you're going to go, okay, remember, now that we're under contract, now remember our inspection period starts. So I'm going to schedule inspections for you. You ready for that 40-page report? So you're continually bringing them back to what you talked about. The more you tell them what's going to happen, the smoother they think everything went, because there are no surprises. There are enough surprises that are going to happen without anybody knowing. The inspection period, the contract timelines, those should not be surprises to the customer. All right. All right. Okay, we talked about this, the research process, how they're going to receive homes from me, and we're teaching them how to act when they encounter these other sources. And also, if you can't find something that they like that's active, go back through old expireds and old withdrawals and look them up and call the homeowners. Okay. Track how many houses you show each of your buyers before they find the one. The goal is to lower that number through your average. And then you tell them, so Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, on average, my buyers see 6 homes before we find the right one. Yet let me ask you, what would you do if the very first house we went to see met all of your criteria? Would you be prepared to submit an offer? What is that gonna tell you about them? Yeah, it's gonna tell them tell you how serious they are, and whether or not they're just gonna want to see things to see them, or whether they are ready to jump on the right opportunity that appears. All right, so we're going to talk about the stats. The offer, sorry, I missed going through a few slides. We discussed the contract. When you talk about negotiation, you can let them know that it goes in 24-hour increments. That just because you submit an offer and they counter, that doesn't mean it's over. And also let them know that at any time, if we're going back and forth, at any time, somebody else could swoop in and take that house. So just because a seller is negotiating with us doesn't necessarily mean they have to see it through. Time is of the essence. There's some FSBO stats. Look at that. Statistics on real estate closing, FSBO versus real estate agent. The closing percentage, 25% of FSBOs close versus 75 with an agent. I love this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not very good and 10 being it's awesome, it's a great experience, what one thing has to happen for this transaction or process to be a 10 for you? This question is asking them, how do I become your realtor for life? How do I go above and beyond? How do I ensure that we have an amazing relationship from this day forward? A great follow-up question to that would be, okay, so getting you closed before your lease is up, that would make it a 10 for you. So if we could add one more thing that would make it awesome, incredible, outrageous, what would one more thing be? So the goal is, how many of those can I meet to just make sure, slam dunk, that I'm going to have referrals and repeat business from them? Okay, this goes over after the transaction, I believe, right? About the transaction. For this transaction or process to be a 10 for you. Okay, if the score isn't a 10, what can I improve to do that? And to improve that rating to a 10, there you go. There's what can I do to improve that rating to a 10 plus plus. So that's very similar to the question I just asked. If we could add one more thing that would make it incredible, what would it be? Then we get to the needs analysis. So the needs analysis is going over everything they want and need in the house and why. That's the part most of us miss, the why. Okay, so you can find needs analysis everywhere. We've got them in designs. In the buyer consultation, there's like a 5-page needs analysis. If you go to the Ignite materials, there's a buyer needs analysis in there. So the questions aren't very, earth-shattering as far as original or anything like that. The magic comes in the follow-up questions. So I always ask 2 follow-up questions. So imagine I'm sitting with these buyers and I say, all right, so tell me about your dream house. And Katie says, well, it has an open kitchen. Most of us say, okay, great, an open kitchen, and they move on to the next question. Well, let me tell you this. I tell you, think of a dog. Is everybody thinking of a dog? You're thinking of a border collie, right? No, but I said a dog. Kayla, what dog did you think of? I don't know where she is. Okay, so when somebody says an open kitchen, we don't know what they're thinking in their head. So that question needs to be, okay, great. What does an open kitchen mean to you? I want a big yard. A big yard, great. What does a big yard mean to you? I want a ranch style home. Great, ranch style home. What does that mean to you? I found out to ask that because people are like, yeah, I want a big 2-story, but, and I'm like, okay, you don't know what people are thinking. So you have to ask them, what does that mean to you? Okay, and then when they say, after they answer what that means, well, it means I have a big California island with bar stools up to it, and ideally the cabinets are in an L, and they describe the whole thing. Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me, what is that going to do for you and your family? Because now you're connecting to their why. And when you go and they're seeing all these homes and they're overwhelmed, or the kids screaming and they go, I don't know, I mean, yeah, it's a great house, and you know it's the right one for them because you listened to their whole thing, and you go, okay, now you said this L-shaped kitchen with the California island and the bar stools, was gonna allow you to have all your family for Thanksgiving and gather in there and do a turkey dance and just be together. Can you see that happening here? You're pulling them back to the why. You can't do that if you just open doors and you never ask them what they're looking for. Okay. Whoops. All right. I think asking for top 10 things they want in the home, I think that's a little much. I always asked for their top 3, maybe 5, depending on their budget, must-haves. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when I say must-have, that means, and I'm going to put these on a separate sheet of paper, because that means if the house doesn't have it, we don't go to see it. And let's say they go, well, the house cannot have carpet. I cannot have carpet. Okay, great. So that means if it's got the perfect kitchen, the perfect yard in the neighborhood that you want, and it's got carpets in the bedroom, we're not even going to look at it. If they say correct, then you put that on there. If they go, well, if it's perfect with everything else, okay, that's not a must-have, because we can arrange for the flooring to be done before you move in. Must-haves are must-haves. The must-have list is what really saves you a lot of time, because when they send you a house and they go, we have to see this one tonight, and you look and it's got carpet in one bedroom or whatever, you can call them and go, hey, gorgeous house, but listen, do you see that carpet in that Florida room? They're either going to say, oh no, I didn't see it, or yeah, we saw it, but okay, so all right, we're going to go see it, and I'm going to take this off the must-have list, because this is going to open us up for how many homes we can see. That allows you to be a consultant instead of just a door opener, because you can call them on it. I love this question. How does someone win with you? How does someone lose with you? So you might hear something like communication. I mean, I like people to communicate with me even when they don't know an answer. If you tell me you're going to call me in an hour and you don't hear anything, but so you don't call me in an hour, that's going to make me mad. They're telling you how to provide an amazing experience and how to make them mad. Okay. What do you feel I have the right to expect from you as my client? What do you feel you have the right to expect from me as your agent? And notice you're dropping hints. You're saying things like, me as your agent. What do I feel I have the right to expect from you as my client? You are saying right there, you are my client, I am your agent. You're setting the tone to get the loyalty agreement. And so, like I said, thank you, Patricia. Like I said, the agreement of loyalty, you can use the brokerage loyalty agreement. That's very wordy. I created my own with the Keller Williams logo at the top, and it was 12 things that I expect from them. I'm sorry, 12 things they can expect from me. It had to do around communication. It had to do around vetting homes. It had to do with having access to my list of affiliated businesses. It had to do with my knowledge, my honesty, I threw in a lot of the transaction broker, requirements as far as fidelity. And then the 4 things I asked from them were at the bottom. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the only things I asked from you, 4 of them. 1, you will call me or reach out to me anytime you see a for sale by owner that you want to see, for sale by owner home. 2, you will allow me to schedule an appointment and accompany you if you go to any new construction community. 3, you will pass out the remaining 4 cards to your friends and family when you have an amazing experience. And last, you will allow me to see this through to the finish and represent you in the purchase of this next home. So let me ask you, are you ready to get started and getting in this house? And then you show excitement. You get excited for it. So after I learned my buyer consultation and I provided that much value, I never had anyone say no to the loyalty agreement. All right. Questions? What is one thing you're going to do as a result of what you've learned today? Mm-hmm. Yep. Jam-packed full of value. Love it. Love it. All right. Thank you, Patricia. You can stop recording.